Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of No One's a Critic, the best podcast here on YouTube.
Damn
I'm
straight.
joined, I'm joined again here by Mac as always. How have you been? I think it's been probably about 2 weeks since we did this.
Yeah, I've been doing good. Yeah, that's mostly my fault. I started a new job, at a pet adoption center
Mhm.
up the street from where I live, and the hours aren't bad or anything like that. It's like, it's just like I was working like an office job,
Mhm.
so I was like on my ass like all day, and now I'm at a job where I'm on my feet like for
Yeah.
10 hours at a time.
Oh no.
Which is like now I'm used to it, but like for
Yeah.
the first couple weeks there, I was like, ugh, I was having a little bit of trouble there.
No, it's totally understandable, and I'm as much to blame as anything. Like I told you, I wanted to kind of do a 2 week cadence at least for a little while. I'm just swamped with work. With I have an office job too. Got the YouTube going on. Got some other projects going on, and yeah, there's just not enough time in a day for everything. And I know you're the exact same way.
Yeah, I'm trying to get another. I'm working on a video now. I'm just trying to find time to, because I also work another job at the bar down the
Mhm.
street too. So just trying to find time. I have to like it used to be. I could just like edit and record whenever. Now I'm like scheduling like my
Yeah,
recording days or editing days like days ahead of time, which isn't
yeah.
bad. It's probably good. Probably a good habit, but I'm
No,
just not
I
used to it.
I know it's hard. It's like I'm the same way. I like to keep it very casual and like just whenever I feel like it. But the busier you get, the more and more you have to just like focus, or else it's not going to get done.
Exactly.
What made you want to work at the pet place? Are you like a big animal person?
Oh yeah, I was working in real estate for a while, and it just wasn't like. I mean, it was fine, but just I don't know, it just gets monotonous after a while.
Yeah,
And yeah, I've applied for the pet adoption center several times, and they finally called me back. And yeah, I'm like, it's mostly shoveling shit, but you know what? I'd rather do that for puppies than I
yeah.
would for like some like dirtbag CEO.
No,
So there we go.
that totally makes sense. And I also think it's like it's nice to. I'm sure it's very grueling to be on your feet that whole time, but it's like I'm sure it's nice to be out and about and doing something versus being at a computer all day long and then being at a computer when you get home all day long too. It's nice to, get a little air and stretch yourself out.
Yeah, that was what I didn't realize. Like the first like week and a half maybe it was rough, but now I'm like used to it.
Yeah.
And it just feels good. I
Hmm.
think I've lost like 10 pounds just
Nice.
from just because I don't even notice it. I haven't even been to the gym, but
Yeah.
just walking around, cleaning, walking dogs, just doing that constantly. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, it works.
That's one of the things I miss about. So I used to go into the office. I used to work in San Francisco. I don't live there anymore, but when I would go into the office, I would be walking up and down those San Francisco hills, like very steep,
Nice.
and just I got a lot of exercise that way. And then ever since COVID, like I've been working from home, and I'm completely fucking out of shape, like just disgusting. So
Yeah.
that's
Well,
one
it's
thing I definitely miss.
and you don't realize it. Like for
Hmm.
me, it was like when I was working, I was remote working and I was at home and I liked it for maybe like a couple months. And then it started to kind of like, I had to start like making efforts to go
Hmm.
outside and just, it really does. Even just, I get it now why some people are like, even if I'm working remotely, I want to go into the office at least like 1 or 2 days. I get why
Yeah.
they say that now.
Yeah, and I think that more and more people are gonna like slowly kind of return to the offices as things open up and they do like a hybrid model or whatever. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what kind of the future of working looks like, especially for white collar people who can be there. But I know we went on a tangent there, but we want to share a little bit about our lives, here and there, get you guys that information. But the topic of this episode that we're going to be discussing is guilty pleasure movies, which is always a fun topic to learn about because we're not snobs, I wouldn't say that, but we're both like we have like a discerning eye when it comes to media. We're very critical. We poke holes in things, talk about why something is quality or why something's not quality, but um we both have things I'm sure that are favorites of ours that we wouldn't like necessarily want to show to a bunch of movie people.
Yeah, well, it's funny because I'm kind of, and I feel like you're the same way. I find it very pretentious when some people are say stuff along the lines of like, they're the kind of people who, like, if they're making their top 10 favorite movie list,
Mhm.
it'll be like the most like pretentious list of all time. Like, here are like five like French art films from
Yeah.
1940. It's like, look, those are good movies, bro, but also, and I appreciate them for what they are. Like, they're very
Yeah.
important in terms of film history. I don't really like quote unquote if I'm like getting drunk and or like
Yeah.
just want to chill on a Friday night. I'm not putting on like Breathless. Like, it's a great movie, absolutely, but like it's just at least for me, it's just not what I want to like
Mhm.
chill and watch.
No, I agree, and, like, something I've always thought about is, like, when I'm by myself, I can really appreciate, like, art house films, like, high quality films, but when you're in a crowd, you want something that, like, pleases the crowd. I was when I was in high school, I was really, really into rap. Like, I loved it. I was like a connoisseur, and I really looked down on people like Drake, pop rappers who are like, this is trash. Why would anyone listen to this? And as I kind of went to college and started partying and stuff like that, I was like, okay, I get what purpose you serve. This is like easy noise that kind of facilitates, like, oh, people are having fun, people are grooving out, whatever. They don't want to listen to necessarily like some high quality rap there, like deep lyric. They don't want to listen to the lyrics. They want to just have fun. I think movies are the same way. For a certain mood, you just want to like chill and have a good time.
Exactly. That's how I felt with funny enough, I had a similar story where my friends were really into like EDM music,
Hmm.
and I'm not like an EDM person, but during like parties, like during college, EDM was like I'm like, okay, yeah.
Yeah,
Like, I'm more of like a classic rock kind of
yeah,
guy, but like when you're at a party, it's like
yeah,
when someone puts on like Zed, I'm like, okay, fuck
yeah.
yeah, let's do it. Okay.
I feel like it's always, this is off topic, but it always makes me laugh when I'd watch movies from like the '90s and stuff when they would be like partying and dancing to like rock music, and it just looks so weird to me because growing up in this generation, you kind of only ever party or dance or whatever to rap, hip hop, EDM, that kind of stuff. Like, I don't know, like dad rock would not make me necessarily want to groove.
Exactly. So what would you say? So that was for music. So what would you say is like your ultimate guilty pleasure movie or movies? What are a series or something? Or
So it's weird, like it tends to be stuff from my childhood that I know is like trashy to an extent, but I just, it gravitated with me as a kid, and I still really like it. Like, this is probably not the best example, but it's the one that pops to my mind immediately. It's the movie Small Soldiers. If you ever watched that, it's about they this military company accidentally puts microchips, like AI military microchips, in these action figures, and they come to life. And they're like kind of waging like the secret war between each other, and like this goofy dorky kid from the '90s has to get involved with it. Kristen Dunst is the love interest, and it's like, looking back on it, it's corny as hell. It's kind of dumb, but I'm like, oh, okay, I really liked this movie as a kid, and I can still turn it on right now and be like almost back in my childhood, just chilling and enjoying that shit.
first of all, I thought we were going to talk about guilty pleasure movies. Small Soldiers is a masterpiece. It actually was. It's so funny you say that. Small Soldiers was the first movie I ever saw in theaters. My mom took me.
Really,
Or maybe wait, hang on. When did Small Soldiers come out?
90
Let's see.
something.
Oh, 98. Yeah. So Small
Yeah.
Soldiers was the first film my mom took me to.
Wow.
The other one I remember after that was the Pokemon, the
Oh yeah, yeah,
2001,
yeah, yeah. My
the
my
the,
my
the
parents took me
Mewtwo
to that
one.
too. Yeah,
Yeah, that shit was based.
that shit was tight.
Yeah, man. But yeah, Small Soldiers, like that. It's so funny you were saying that. I was like, holy fuck, dude. That was like the
Yeah.
first movie my mom took me to.
Yeah. I don't, yeah, I still, I don't know. I still really like it. Like, I mean, there are some like cringy kind of '90s moments in there where you're like, oh, but it, the thing about some of those old movies that kind of makes them not guilty pleasures for me anymore. I mean, one, I think we're going to talk about this, but I don't really have guilty pleasures. I'm just kind of having fun with this conversation. But like, one of those things I really, really like is that they don't have any kind of taint of like modern. We talk a lot about the drama that goes on with modern films where they're either, you know, the reactionary people are pissed off or the woke people are pissed off. One of those things I like about watching like an old corny 90s movie is like it's so disattached from that that I don't even think about the culture war or anything when I watch it. I'm just like, yeah, man, things were way chiller back in the day.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because, like, there's a difference between being like, so this is like at least my view on it. There's a difference between being able to watch a movie and understand like it like obviously is like problematic in many ways, and but then like so like for example, the first thing that came to mind was like Ace Ventura. Rewatching that movie now is pretty fucked up. Like there's a lot of like really just like anti-trans, anti like gay. Like there's like the whole joke about like Jim Carrey thinks he kissed a man, so he's like burning his clothes and like all that shit. But at the same time, it's look, when I'm watching this movie, I'm kind of like if this movie was released today, I would
Yeah,
have like it's like no, okay, this is like ridiculous. But at the same, I'm kind of with you where like you can kind of like watch these movies and you're kind of able to sort of you're almost like able to like transport back to that time when it's
yeah,
like again like there are plenty of like movies that came out in like the 50s and 60s that
yeah.
I'm sure by today's standards would be like
Oh
just
yeah.
ridiculous, but we're given that like okay, we can watch these movies, we can sort of like in the back of our heads understand that these films were released in a certain time frame, and we can still enjoy it without feeling like we're like there's like some like person behind us, I can't believe you enjoyed
Yeah.
that film. It's like,
I mean, I'm sure there are people like that too, to be honest,
oh
who are
yeah, but
like,
those are people that are just
yeah,
like those are people that you can't reason with. It's like, how
yeah.
can you enjoy this film from 1947? And I'm
I
like,
know.
what?
Like how dare this film, have a white male in the lead? Don't they realize how problematic? Like, shut the fuck up. Like this is just a movie from back in the day from a different time period where they don't have the same kind of cultural values that we have nowadays. Not that I agree with all of those values, but like, you know, this was made during its time, and you have to accept that, and you can learn lessons from it if you really have a problem with it. But yeah, I don't know, that really bugs me.
It was funny. I was just watching another one of my quote unquote. Yeah, I wouldn't say they're like for me. They're not guilty pleasures.
No,
Like I'm the kind of person who's like I don't give a shit. Like if I like
no.
a movie, I'll tell you. Like again, like I'm not like they're. I've known like those pretentious like especially like in college during film school. There were those kids. It's like I don't enjoy schlock. I like serious art film. And it's like okay, bro. Like if you want to go watch The Mirror, like if you're like if you get home from a long day of work and like you just
Mhm.
want to get drunk and eat snacks and watch like all 3.5 hours of Andre Rublev, like be my guest. But for me, I'm gonna watch like one of like the old like '90s Adam Sandler films. Like
Oh
I
my
was
god,
just
that's
watching,
I was gonna bring that up.
yeah, I was just watching Happy Gilmore the other day. It just
Yeah,
came on Netflix,
yeah.
and that's a movie like I grew up with. Like my
D-
cousins showed it to me, and that's a movie I'm watching it. Like this is like insane. Like this is just like just the shit that goes down in that movie.
I
Um,
I love Adam Sandler's body of work. Like, I know it's so fucking stupid, but like growing up, I was watching, yeah, Happy Gilmore, 51st Dates, Billy Madison, The Water Boy. Those were all like really enjoyable comedies for me that I still really like to this day. Um, Adam Sandler is such an interesting example of an actor too, because yeah, he does the schlock that even I hate, like Jack and Jill or something, where it's like this is so stupid I can't even enjoy this one.
how
But
dare you talk heresy against Jack
okay,
and Jill, the
well,
greatest film of all time.
fair enough. But then he'll do something like Rain Over Me or Punch Drunk Love, which is like not only good for an Adam Sandler film, like that's a phenomenal movie in and of itself, like a piece of art. And you realize that, like, oh, you are a talented actor. I mean, he went to Juilliard, like he's a trained actor. He does, this simple stuff to rake in the millions, but he's also capable of really bringing it to some of these like world class dramas.
Well, the what upsets me is that people tend to, and this is like an issue with like, kind of ties in with just like that pretentiousness that I was talking about from like film majors in college, or Oscar bias. There is a certain aversion towards comedic acting, that it is not somehow, it's not real acting. It's not like real. It's just them, you know, it's not serious. And what really pisses me off about that is that, it, like, for example, like we hear often that many actors, so like Adam Sandler, um, and others, or John C. Riley, even Will Ferrell. These are actors who kind of started in known for their comedies, and then they shifted over and got notoriety for their dramatic work. Um, I think that that shows the versatility of an actor. If you're an actor where like Adam Sandler, he can do something like Punch Drunk Love, he can do something like Uncut Gems, but then he can still bring it for like The Waterboy or Billy Madison or Happy Gilmore. That to me is an actor who can do it all. One of my favorite performances probably ever is have you ever seen the film Along Came Polly?
Uh, is that the one with Ben Stiller?
Yeah, so it's
Yeah,
Ben
yeah.
Stiller and Jennifer Aniston. Philip Seymour Hoffman plays Ben Stiller's best friend in that
Mhm.
movie, and he is the funniest motherfucker. And he plays like an ex child star who like is in one movie and he thinks he's like still hot shit.
Yeah.
And he like hired a crew to like follow him around to like he's like making his own E True Hollywood Story.
Oh, God.
He is, and this again, this is the, I think he made it like around the same time he won the Best Actor Oscar for Capote.
Mhm.
Um, that to me is a truly versatile actor. But for some reason, the idea, like, oh, if you're just in like silly comedies
Yeah.
or comedy roles, that's not real acting. And I'm like,
Yeah.
go fuck yourself. That's so bullshit.
No, I mean, like, ever since I saw Adam Sandler in Reign Over Me, I was always interested in like I want to see more comedic actors take on serious roles because I've been really impressed when I've actually seen them because you're right. Comedy in many ways kind of requires as much if not more than a dramatic performance. Like it requires like an incredible presence, an incredible amount of skill. And I think society's starting to realize that. I mean, the great example right now, of course, is Bob Odenkirk as Saul Goodman in Better Call Saul.
Hmm.
A guy known throughout his life for his comedy, and now is the lead in one of the most critically acclaimed dramas going on right now. I think that was the title of his book too, comedy, 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 drama, because it was like he had starred in Mr. Show and a number of other comedies, and then kind of hit it really big with the Saul role,
Hmm.
which is still comedic, but it is
Yeah,
in
it
Better
is
Call
very
Saul is also a very dramatic role as well.
well doing, and that's kind of like, I think comedy drama is a very
Yeah.
interesting genre for that reason, and that like you kind of have to be versatile in both. And to your point, I actually, and some funny enough, I actually think some of my favorite performances have been like you are correct in the sense of like a comedic actor like Adam Sandler, Will Ferrell, going over to the drama. But I remember that role in particular, Along Came Polly. That would be a guilty pleasure movie for me. It's a pretty fun movie,
Yeah.
but it's it it really is like it's a really good movie just for Philip Seymour Hoffman's performance. And I think I kind of like it when I see that happen, when I see
Mhm.
a primarily dramatic actor switch to a comedic role. That
Yeah.
to me, I really like that because that kind of shows that like, this person can still. Did you ever see that clip of Liam Neeson? It was on Ricky Gervais's show.
Mm-mm.
It was Liam Neeson. He wanted to do stand up comedy,
No.
and I'll send you the clip after. But he's doing, and this is like again Liam Neeson, who has always been known for his dramatic work,
Yeah.
and he does this scene where he's doing improv with Ricky Gervais, but like the joke is that he's such like an intense dramatic actor, he
Yeah.
doesn't know how to like
Yeah.
improvise comedy, so he keeps taking it into these like super dark areas. That to me, like, I love seeing that when a
Yeah.
dramatic actor like takes like a comedic role,
Yeah.
and vice versa, of course. But it really, I think that personally for me is like, it really shows the versatility of an actor.
And you know what's annoying about the people who kind of look down on comedy, which is those are also the type of people who would probably praise something like, Charlie Chaplin and City Lights, like any of those kind of old like vaudeville black and white movies, because it's old and it's black and white and it's kind of has like a more high class, you know, feel to it. Something like a film snob could show as like a great example. But that's also a very accessible comedy for its time. It was like for the masses. It wasn't, high art or anything like that. But City Lights is one of my top 10 favorite films because it is just so incredibly funny. Just slapstick again is something that is looked down on too, but when done really well and you have that commitment from the actors, it's just fantastic.
Um, it's yeah, that is an example of again, it's like Charlie Chaplin was like, "Oh, it's different." Like, no, it's not. It was slapstick. Like,
Yeah,
have you ever seen a Charlie Chaplin film? They're like
yeah.
slapstick. Like,
But
and it's
still
okay.
really, really funny.
And that's the thing. It's like that's okay. Like that's good. Like that's it just goes to show that this can still be considered high art. But it's kind of like one of the again, it's one of those things where like pompous, like pretentious film majors. It's like, hey, how come like you think that Charlie Chaplin films can be high art, but like something like Anchorman can't be?
Yeah.
Which I still like. That movie's awesome.
That
The movie's
movie's
hilarious, and
incredibly
people,
funny.
but they're like, well, no, it's different, and it's like, how? How is it different? And
Well,
it's
it's
not. It's just
modern.
yeah, it's just this. It's. There's no difference. It's just that like it's that pretentiousness of
Yeah.
like, oh, it's a classic film with Charlie Chaplin,
Well,
so I can enjoy it.
it's
And it's like,
also like
shut up.
it's the same people who say like there's no good modern music. And I'm like, one,
I
have you
hate those
listened to
people.
all of modern music? Because there is definitely really great modern music being made nowadays. Even I'd say there's pop music that's still really, really good today. There's a lot of bad stuff out there too, but um, just because you want to feel special, so you kind of shit on, like modern stuff, and you're like, oh, it was better back in the day. Like, no, the quality is always the same. It's just that only the gems have stayed from the past that you can kind of point to. Nobody remembers all the shitty films from that era because they just fallen by the wayside. And by the way, I think I actually I said Chapman, not Chaplin. So sorry about that. Kind of
Oh no,
a
you're
slip
good.
slip of the tongue. But yeah, it's like again, the reason we keep bringing this up of like pretentious art people is because the whole idea of like a guilty concept kind of implies that like there is a true like art form that we should all be enjoying, and if it's not that art form, it shouldn't be enjoyed at all, and you should feel bad and feel ashamed for liking it. You're not a real art critic, you're not a real connoisseur, you're just a pleb. And that's a dumb attitude to have when it comes to any kind of media. Like, there's a lot to be enjoyed for pretty much anything, even pulpy schlock. Like, it can still be fun.
Yeah, it's just I that is like like 'cause that's like this whole thing is a guilty pleasure movie, but like that's like the whole thing. It's like why do you feel guilty for liking these
Yeah.
movies? If you like it, you like it. Um, yeah, I was like laughing my ass off to
Mhm.
Happy Gilmore again, and then
Yeah.
again I'm watching it. It's so ridiculous.
Mhm.
Um, Now that you mention it, though, it is interesting how I realized that just thinking back now that we're listing them, a lot of even those like early Adam Sandler films had a lot of heart.
Mhm.
Waterboy was very
Oh,
heartful.
yeah.
Happy Gilmore, like the whole plot is him trying to like save his grandmother's
Yeah.
house. Um, what else?
There's a level of like sincerity to a lot of these
Hmm.
older corny
That's a good way to put
flicks
it.
that I feel like we've lost in the modern age. A lot of modern films and stuff have this really ingrained sense of like irony and cynicism and detachment that I understand as part of the zeitgeist right now. It's like that's kind of culturally like, like Rick and Morty. Like, let's just say that is kind of emblematic of what a lot of people feel nowadays. But there is something really nice about this old stuff that's like there wasn't really, they weren't being ironic with this. They were genuinely presenting things this way, kind of cringy at times and kind of corny at times, but you know you can still appreciate that level of sincerity.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. They're very sincere, and I think that's like kind of why, like, thinking back to like Adam Sandler's those movies, that's why I kind of liked them. Especially Happy Gilmore was like my favorite among them,
Mhm.
and it was because of the sincerity.
Yeah.
Even if he was like swearing and beating people up on the golf
Yeah.
course, he
You
just
know,
you could tell that he was a good person.
yeah, you know what? The first one of the first movies I can remember really making me cry was Click. That movie he did where he can pause time and everything. Like
Based.
it's a looking back, it's a kind of very predictable, kind of movie of like, oh yeah, here's the lesson. Don't neglect your family. Don't worry about the future too much. Be in the moment. A very simple message. But I was like, man, I cried at the end when he was dying. It was like it was so sincere. I was like, I was into it. And yeah, I think a lot of his movies are really fantastic, and I don't feel guilty at all for watching them. If we're gonna talk about things that kind of embarrass me a little bit to like admit that I like, um, one is the Gilmore Girls, which
Based.
is a good
Hell yeah.
show. It's a very good show, but it's a girly kind of show. And I'm like, I watched it with my fiance, and I was like, yeah, I'm into this. Like, this is well written, even though it's for girls.
It's funny that you mentioned that. I was actually, because my next video, of all things, in my next video, I compare Mr. Robot and Gossip Girl. I
Really?
promise it'll make sense. But
Okay.
yeah, me and my girlfriend were watching Gossip Girl because, like, we were like, hey, let's each pick a show
Yeah.
and we'll watch it for each other. So I picked Mr. Robot, so we watched all the way through that. And then she picked Gossip Girl. And it's funny because, like, we got to like season like 3, and I was like, and I was the one who was like, "Hey, babe, you want to watch Gossip Girl?" And she's like, "No." Like, she kind
Oh,
of got sick of it herself.
yeah.
Um, Gossip Girl was awful. It's not a good show, but it's incredibly entertaining
Yeah.
because it just, again, it's so self aware. Like,
Hmm.
it kind of knows that it's like
Yeah.
absurd, but it's like,
Yeah.
just run with it, just enjoy it.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's definitely a place for that, and again, it's kind of sometimes embarrassing to admit to because they're marketed for girls, and you're like, really, that's what you're watching? But if it's entertaining, and like I said, I thought Gilmore Girls was really well written. Like the dialogue was very very snappy. It was very tightly paced. Definitely the storylines were female oriented. It's all about like who's dating who, and is she going to accept this proposal, or is she going to go back with the other guy? It's very much that kind of storytelling. But that could be a nice change of pace too from like the very like male oriented like dramas that I watch all the time, like Sopranos or Breaking Bad. It's nice sometimes when the conflict is not about who's going to get whacked, who's going to get murdered. It's just about like who's going to get together at the end of the season.
Yeah. I Gossip Girl. It's funny because I think I only knew Gossip Girl from. I mean, I'd heard of it, but it was a Family Guy joke about how they talk fast,
Yeah.
and I think I watched one episode with my girlfriend, and like they were like talking like rapid fire, and I was
Yeah.
like, it's the meme.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think what else. I love all the DComs. I still watch those even today. I don't give a fuck. Oh, you know what I like? The scary movies.
Oh yeah.
All of them. They're terrible, but all of them.
Yeah.
I don't give a fuck. They're so good.
That's one. I mean, I don't enjoy those movies particularly myself, but I can see why. I mean, like again, it my fiance really loves those movies too. Same with like what were those other parody kind of movies? There's like epic movie and like superhero movie or something like that. All those that genre of like corny dumb parody movies. Scream, I think, is another one in that genre. That it's like, yeah, it's dumb, but that's kind of the joke. It's like very self-aware, knows what it is, knows who it's appealing to, and it's something to kind of turn on with a crowd too, and everyone can not really think too hard and just laugh and talk and enjoy the thing.
I'll admit this one. Me and my sister love. Have you ever seen a Cinderella story with Hilary Duff?
No, I mean, yes, that's one of my fiance's
Yeah,
favorite
don't lie.
movies.
Don't lie. Okay.
I've seen it.
I've watched it with my girlfriend a couple times, but me and my sister used to love it because Jennifer Coolidge in that movie
Uh-huh.
as the evil stepmother,
Yeah, yeah,
we thought she was hilarious. Like,
yeah.
she was so good in that. Um,
Oh,
that
that
movie.
one's funny to think about too because it was like the classic kind of like that was a '90s or early 2000s, right? Like movie,
Yeah,
so somewhere around
2004?
there.
2004, yes.
Yeah, no, I don't remember all the details, but it's like all the protagonists around that time were like they were trying to go to school to be like a writer or like an
Yeah.
artist or something, and it's so funny to me watching those nowadays and just knowing what happened afterwards with like the 2008 recession and like you're unemployed. You're unemployed with that degree right there. But again, it was just that time period of like, before all the cynicism of everything that happened after that,
I read an article recently, someone had mentioned, how people need to stop making their protagonists architects in movies.
Oh yeah,
And it's so true because I'll watch movies nowadays and, like, yeah, they're always an architect, and it's because architect is like, oh, it's still like it's a big boy job, but it's
yeah.
also still like creative and kind of like, ooh, look, they're it shows that they're
Yeah.
like
Hmm.
creative and like still a free spirit. And yeah, they're all architects. They're all fucking architects. And it's like, ah, stop.
Not realizing, and they always design like skyscrapers and stuff, not realizing that like 0.01% of architects will ever design a skyscraper. What most architects work on is like the two-story office building that you pass by every day that you never look at, like
Hey,
very kind of nondescript buildings.
here's my template for this like 80 story like skyscraper. Great. Can you design a new porta potty for our
Yeah,
like
exactly. Like it's just I don't know, but that's the whole. I mean that just gets into all the lack of realism in movies. But you know what else is funny from these kind of movies is it's more from TV that I recognize this trope, but like something like Friends or How I Met Your Mother, which is about a bunch of underemployed people living in a city enjoying the hell out of life, like doing all this stuff, like not ever struggling with like paying bills or like the grind or any of that kind of stuff. It's just all hangouts, all just doing whatever. That's
I'm
another
like,
one
where
that's kind of fallen by
where
the
do they
wayside.
have the time to do all
I
this shit?
know.
Like, holy hell.
We're at the bar or coffee house or whatever every single day. Like no one's ever working. They're just chilling.
That just reminded me because I thought of Friends immediately. Full House was a show that me and
Mm,
my sister used to watch. It used to be on Nick and Night.
yeah.
We watched the shit out of that show.
Oh
It
yeah.
wasn't good.
No.
Like, nostalgia aside, like, it wasn't very good. I mean, maybe for like the 90s it
It
was.
was I mean, it was basic, like, I wouldn't say there's nothing, like, horrible about it, but it was, like, not pushing the narrative limits of what the genre could do. It was firmly, like, give the audience what they want. They want corny jokes, they want catchphrases, they want the "aw" at the end of the episode kinda moments, like, it's not something like, Married with Children, which did try to push the sitcom genre. I think it tried to be like, no, not all sitcom families are happy. Some of them are dysfunctional. They're dealing with all of this, and we're going to show the ugly side of what it is. Much more. You know what? Speaking of sitcoms too, one of the ones I really loved was I still really love it to this day. It's called Still Standing. It had Mark Addy who plays Robert Baratheon in Game of Thrones. Um,
Oh,
he's
it looked familiar.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's like a working class Chicago dad or whatever. It's like Married with Kids, but just a lot cleaner and a lot more tamer. Corny as hell many times, but I still all the episodes are on YouTube because it's a show that no one gives a fuck about, so they don't even bother copyright claiming them.
Huh.
And I watch those occasionally. I'm just like, yeah, man, this shit was this shit was calming. It was so basic and so middle of the road. I'm like, I can just turn this on and relax.
There was another. Now that you mentioned that, there was another show that was on ABC Family, called "Grounded for Life." I don't.
Oh yeah,
I
yeah, yeah. I
you like
remember that one.
you'll recognize like half the actors in it, but I
Yeah.
don't know any of their names. That was not a very good show, but I watched a lot of it because I don't know
The
why, but
the dad was that guy from Vikings, and now he was in Gotham too.
yeah, he's in a
Yeah,
lot. He
yeah,
was in
yeah.
so yeah,
I know.
he's
I know what you're
in.
talking about. Yeah,
He's turning into like one of those guys.
yeah,
It's like no, that guy.
yeah. Yeah. He was like the king in Vikings.
Hmm.
But yeah, I remember watching that, and again, a lot. I like a lot of those old, corny sitcoms, like again, Full House, Family Matters. Even even some of that problematic shit, like All in the Family, Archie Bunker, and is the racist guy with the black neighbor, who
Yeah.
I, what's so funny about that too, watching that nowadays, because you go in being like, oh, this is an extremely problematic show, right? He's very much a racist, white guy, but what's so funny is that, like, again, they don't treat it like a straw man type of thing. They have it like his black neighbor, who he's always like going at it with, gives it to him just as much as Archie gives it to him. It's like there's almost like this mutual respect there between the Jeffersons, and they got their own spinoff. But it's like it's not like, oh, look at this, racist white guy and how ashamed he should be. It's like, oh, you're gonna talk shit to me, I'm gonna talk shit back to you. And it's like it was fun, it's like they were just going at it with each other. And again, a pretty enjoyable little sitcom there.
Yeah, what I don't it's so true, like, you get a lot of, like, those, like, reactionary people where it's like, "Oh, this show." It's kind of like a good an example I always go back to is, the N-word episode from South Park, where,
Oh
like,
yeah,
so, like,
yeah,
that episode, they dropped the N-word, like, countless times,
yeah,
yet anyone with half a brain knows that this episode is, like, the
yeah,
entire it's trying to point out, like, the actual impact of the N word itself. It's just doing so in like a satirical
hmm,
way. Um, Adults know that. Adults
yeah,
can watch that and understand that. That's kind of how I feel with like a lot of like those kind of shows where yeah, they're being quote unquote like they're being like edgy or like abrasive, but like there's a good message underneath it.
hmm.
Um, but some people are just like too childish to see that, and they just said this is inappropriate.
Well, it's
Um, yeah.
it's like there was almost like there's an infantilization, I feel like, with a lot of like these modern woke things, where it's like we need to protect this group from all these evil people who are trying to take them down or whatever, versus something like All in the Family. It was like it was clear that the message was not, oh, racism is okay, but it didn't feel the need to like infantilize the Jeffersons or whatever, and be like, no, they could take care of themselves, and they could give it back to Archie as much as he gave it to them, and they could be in the wrong sometimes. There's a really funny episode where uh it's been a long time since I've seen it, but like uh Jefferson's like son, or no, Jefferson's like daughter or something, is like dating a white guy, and he's like super angry about it. And then Archie is just like kind of like, hey, Jefferson, you should be a little more tolerant, of interracial couples. And it's really funny, like kind of turning the premise on itself. But again, it was like it almost respected its audience enough to be like, no, I mean, we clearly understand, you clearly understand, like, racism is not a good thing, but like we don't need to constantly shove this message down your throats. Like, you get it, like our characters can just be characters and just interact with each other in this way.
I don't know why, but like we were talking about this, I just thought of another guilty pleasure movie, and this one I actually am embarrassed about because I don't watch it for like good reasons. Like every time I watch it, this movie's trash. But
Yeah,
I think it's like, and I don't even find it like that entertaining. But I almost like find it entertaining because of how trash it is. Because I'm almost like amazed by the audacity of the film. Have you seen the Jobs movie with Ashton Kutcher? Where he
yeah, I've
plays
seen
Steve
that.
Jobs. Yeah, I hate that movie. I think that movie, like, it's really weird because, like, Ashton Kutcher, God bless his soul, he's trying so hard in that
Yeah,
movie. There's that awesome scene where, like, he like fucking loses his shit and like
Yeah.
fires the guy. And it's like, from what I understand, like that's not really how like Steve Jobs was an asshole, but that's
Yeah.
not really like how he. I think even
No.
like the Steve Jobs with Michael Fassbender gets
Yeah,
it wrong.
yeah.
From
Yeah,
what
of
I've heard, is
course.
like he was an asshole, but he wasn't like
No.
like the way that they portray him.
No.
Um, yeah, that movie I dislike because it was weirdly like Apple worshipping and kind of
Yeah.
the Steve Jobs was a little bit, but not so much. But that
Yeah.
first Jobs movie with Kutcher, it really was, and I was like, whoa, this
Y
is like there are some movies that like that old Mac and Me movie with the alien that was just like a big McDonald's product placement
yeah.
commercial. I love that movie, by the way. Great movie.
Yeah.
Everyone, I love to have improv dance competitions at my local McDonald's. Um, but that movie, the Ashton Kutcher one, I wanted to like, but I keep watching it because
Yeah,
it's just like I'm almost like amazed at how like people
it
made this film.
there's a lot not good about that one. That I think the Fassbender one is a much better written film in
Mhm.
general. What There was one moment from that movie I really liked, which was the scene where he lied to Steve Wozniak about how much money that they were getting paid for the. He helped him with the Atari game or whatever,
Mhm.
and he lied to him about how much money they were making so he could keep most of it for himself. Um, and he has a look in his eye after he does it where he just, like, you can see just how like disgusted he is with himself of what he just did to his friend and how ashamed he is of it. And then the next scene is like immediately gone. He's like, but for a
Oh yeah.
moment, for a moment, you saw the humanity in his eyes, and I mean, you're right. I don't think in general Kutcher was not great in that role, but I thought for that one particular scene, I was like, oh wow, I could see the pain in your eyes as you did that. I thought that was really good, but um,
Well,
uh,
that's what was confusing about the film is that like the Fassbender one was a lot more consistent in the sense that like
yeah,
the film was a lot more consistent and like Steve Jobs was kind of an asshole. Like he was
yeah,
abrasive. He yeah, he made good products, but like he was a very flawed human being.
yeah,
Um Ashton Kutcher Jobs movie, I couldn't really tell. Like there were times when they're making him out to be like a massive,
yeah,
complete, utter asshole, like almost like comically so.
yeah.
Like my favorite part is at the beginning when he's at college and he fucks that like hippie chick, and
Oh yeah.
then they're doing acid, and he's like, "Hey, can I take one for my girlfriend?" And she's like, "What?" But then
Uh,
later the movie almost like sucks Apple's cock so
yeah.
hard. Like the last like act of that movie, it's just like there's like big impassioned like we believe what you stood for,
Oh,
and it's weird too because at the very end of the movie, it's him giving the weirdos speech. You know that ad
eh,
where it's like here's to like the weirdos, the freaks. It's like a very famous radio ad, and during the ad, it's showing a bunch of like it's like a montage of like Wozniak and all those who helped him um, with the company. And there's like motivational music playing, but I don't think it's supposed to be ironic, which it when it really should be, considering that like all the like he fucked over like half the people who are like he's talking about or he's supposed to be talking about. Um, it's very weird. That movie was just bizarre. I wonder
there
if Kutcher would have done a better job if he was given better direction, but
I think so. I think the direction was a big part of that. Like, I hate that scene at the end where Wozniak is like giving this like real like you can tell it was written by writers kind of speech where he's like, Steve, you've become someone who only cares about the product, and you're gonna go to new heights, but you'll never go back to the moments in our garage. Or like, and it's such like a movie kind of thing. Which, yeah, the Fassbender one was like that too, but it was better written kind of dialogue, but um I do think it's much more consistent the Fastbender one, but I didn't get those same highs and also the same lows that the Kutcher got. Like Fastbender gave a very kind of consistent performance, but he doesn't get real emotional really at any point in the film. It's like, I mean, angry at times, but like you don't have that kind of like, again, that pain in his eyes even when he's talking to his daughter at the end. It's just it's a very stable and pretty good performance.
it was also weird. Like I have to lay that in part. I think it was that. First of all, Danny Boyle directed it, which is a weird choice for that. But aside from that, Aaron Sorkin wrote it, and I'm just like,
Yeah. Oh,
Aaron.
you don't like Sorkin?
I have a very complicated relationship with Aaron Sorkin.
Oh, you
I
hate the
think
Newsroom. I forgot.
Newsroom is absolute ass. The Social Network is an absolute masterpiece. A lot of the other stuff is kind of like hit or miss. Molly's Game, I saw that a while back. That was pretty good. He directed that one too. I like that. Um, I never saw The West Wing. A Few Good Men I like, but then there's something like Steve Jobs with the movie. Really enjoyed. However, there were many times when I could like it. Kind of like the film was worse because I could hear Aaron Sorkin like being Aaron Sorkin
Yeah.
in the writing. And it's kind of like sometimes I feel that with Tarantino too,
Hmm.
but like at least with that, like even he's so far up his own ass, like he's like, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm Tarantino. With Sorkin, sometimes I'm just like, dude, you need to chill. Like you
Yeah.
need like all this
He,
wordplay and all these like
yeah, like you could tell Sorkin's dialogue when you hear it, for better and worse. Going back to kind of guilty pleasures here, something I just watched the other night that I hadn't seen for a long time, was Underworld, the vampire werewolf
with Kate
movie.
Beckinsale.
Yeah, Kate
Hell
Beckinsale,
yeah,
and I was
brother.
like, again, a lot of like, very early 2000s, vibes to it. The color, everything was like, you know dark grays, rain, all like it rains the entire fucking movie. It never stops. Very much of its time. And very sincere. Again, there's no irony to any of this stuff. They never like poke fun at how they're all dressed in BDSM leather and all this kind of stuff. That she fucking she fucking shoots a hole in the floor with her gun and drops down to the fucking next level. Again, fully committed to how schlocky it is, but man, what a trip watching
Yeah,
that movie was.
that Carpenter's getting sued. Um, and also Kate Beckinsale in Leather was
Oh
also pretty
yeah,
good.
yeah. Yeah, she's awesome, and
Um, and me and my girlfriend just watched it again. It's an awful movie, but we watched White Chicks. I love that movie.
that's a
It's so
funny
stupid,
movie.
so bad. It's so
Yeah,
stupid, but it's good. I like it. I enjoy it very much.
stupid but good is yeah. Again, it's like it's so committed and like it knows what it is, and it's like you can't help but just be charmed by something like this. It's like it's very intentional.
Terry Crews in that movie is like he gave it his all, like
Yeah,
being like easy white chocolate. You might
yeah.
know, like.
Oh man,
But like I'm rewatching it, like the opening scene is like
yeah.
they're pretending to be like two like Hispanic like bodega owners, and I'm just like, oh god, this is aged so horribly, but it's still pretty damn funny.
It makes me so sad that like a lot of these like if you ever watch It's Always Sunny, uh all of the episodes where Dee dresses like a minority, she has all these like characters that she does like uh what's the fucking name, like Tammy, like I don't know, it's like a Korean stereotype where she's got buck teeth and like slanty eyes and stuff, and like she has like a Puerto Rican like character that she plays like in Orange Face basically, and like all of those episodes are taken down now from every site that streams It's Always Sunny. The same thing with the Community episode where they do the Dungeons and Dragons, and Professor Chang dresses up like a dark elf in all blackface. They even say like, "Are you dressed in blackface?" And he's like, "No, I'm a dark elf. Like this is in the world of Dungeons and Dragons." And all that stuff is taken down. Like no thought to like the context that it's like the joke is how inappropriate this is. It's just like, nope, can't show it. We're not supporting that no more.
Yeah, I
It's
don't.
just so
That's
stupid.
or it's like they're even like what was it? There was that big controversy over when Going to Win was being cast on one of the streaming services.
HBO, yeah.
Yeah, and but the thing is, they didn't censor it. They just said at the beginning, like, "Hey, this is a
Yeah,
film of its time." Yeah, I'm fine with that.
yeah,
I really don't think like it's. I don't know. Part of me is like it is patronizing to like I don't need you to tell me that a film from 1939 is going to be outdated.
yeah,
However, at the same time, like there are a lot of fucking idiots out there.
yeah.
So like they have to cover their ass. That's fine. But then oh, what was there was a movie just recently that cut something out. I think I heard that in Spider-Man, the Sam Raimi, like the original Spider-Man, you know the line where he's fighting Bonesaw in the cage match,
Oh yeah, he's like, "He's
and
your
he goes,
husband."
yeah, and
Make that
apparently
for.
they said that like during a TV showing they cut that line out, and I was like, really? You don't? I don't think
Uh,
that's necessary.
I mean,
Was it an outdated joke? Was it a stupid joke? Sure, but also like the character in it's like he's like a teenager. I don't. That just seemed
yeah,
really stupid.
no, but again, it's so stupid because even if it was like, yeah, he's making fun of you for your, it's like a homophobic insult, but like, who cares? Like, you understand? I can like call you, like, if I said like, oh, you fight like a girl or whatever, is that misogynistic? Yeah, but who cares? Like, you understand? It's like an insult. I'm doing it intentionally because we're fighting in a cage match here and we're just talking shit. I'm not actually going out there and like beating up gay people for existing. It's like it's just words. It doesn't fucking matter. Um and oh my god, this again, it's this infantilization that like, oh my god, we can't even acknowledge that like insulting someone for being gay exists. Like that can't even be a part of our reality. Anything that exists of it, we got to censor, we got to get rid of it, and somehow people will like forget that homophobia exists. It's incredibly stupid.
Or just like it just to go through the effort to do it. Like most like people will hear that joke and be like, "Yeah, it's outdated. That's fine." Like again, it was made like as of now 20 years ago.
Yeah.
It's weird to think about to say that, but yeah, it was made like 20 years ago. Of course, it's going to be some outdated comedy.
Well, I mean,
Um,
I guess now Disney owns that or something, or they have some deal with Fox or whatever, or Sony that it's all part of the fucking MCU now. Uh, what a greedy kind of move that was from them. It's like they own all movies now belong to the MCU in a way because they're all just alternate dimensions to the main MCU. What an incredible like fucking grab that was from them.
yeah, I'm trying to actually now that I'm thinking about it, what are some no. I was gonna say, are there any like MCU movies that are guilty pleasure movies for me? And I'm like, no, not really. None of them are like bad or good enough for me to like.
I mean, it's hard to even call them guilty pleasures because nobody would find you guilty for liking them because they're so popular. I mean, I
Which
guess
is dumb.
maybe film snobs would, but
Which is
um,
dumb because there are plenty of Marvel movies that are trash, and you should feel
oh yeah,
embarrassed about liking them over like Happy Gilmore. It's a decent movie.
yeah,
Small Soldiers, awesome movie. Like Thor 2,
no,
like no.
no, it's like, yeah, I don't. It's too popular almost to be a guilty pleasure. But yeah, no, I mean maybe, I mean there's some superhero movies I could think of that maybe would be guilty pleasures, like um I don't know, maybe some of those like old, like Catwoman. I guess maybe the old one with Halle Berry if you like that one.
That the Daredevil movie with Ben Affleck was Kino.
Oh yeah, it's I don't looking back at those movies before they had the MCU treatment where they all were like they had more freedom to kind of be cringy and be stupid. I really miss that. Like again, we talked about this in our Marvel episode, but it's such a sterile kind of corporate environment now that it's like you won't hit those lows again, but you won't hit those peak highs of like this is so fucking stupid. I love it.
Yeah. Um. There's Daredevil. There's Catwoman. Wasn't there? Oh no, there was the Elektra sequel, which I never saw. Which I'm
Oh
sure
yeah, yeah.
was
They made a spin-off, yeah, and like
which I'm sure was just as bad as I imagine it would be.
yeah. You know when I was looking up the Underworld movie, I found out that they based the character Celine off of a Marvel superhero without Marvel's permission. Again, this was before they had their whole universe, so I guess people didn't care as much. So Underworld is almost an unofficial Marvel superhero movie.
Really?
There was gonna be there was they were debating making a crossover with Blade, which again is another Marvel property, but again before they had their whole universe. Although I think they're bringing Blade into it now with the whole Morbius thing.
Oh my god.
So again,
Morbius queef.
yeah, there's gonna be a fucking million other, and Sony has their own. Sony's things are apparently part of the Marvel too because I didn't watch the Morbius film, but I like apparently there's like a crossover with Marvel in there too. So again, it's all again Marvel's just like this giant fucking machine that's devouring everything, and it's like all your movies, even if they weren't made by us, they're now a part of us. Like what a parasitic kind of franchise this is.
Sounds like the whole like the Star Wars EU thing,
Oh yeah,
um, where they kind of like we have final say on what's canon. It's like go fuck yourself.
yeah. Star Wars will be an episode we'll probably do one day too. That's a whole other can of worms. But we're coming up on our hour here, and we talked a lot about movies in general. You know, we didn't just stick to the guilty topics thing, but we did cover a lot of guilty topics. Any kind of final thoughts you want to leave us with here?
Yeah, people out there, all jokes aside, if you ever feel embarrassed for liking a movie, you either, touch grass. Like, don't worry about it. If you like a movie, you like a movie. Doesn't mean
Yeah,
you think the movie is like X, like it's on par of
yeah,
like the greatest of all time. If you like a movie, you find it entertaining, it's fine. Don't worry about it. I kind of like that's. I'm glad you brought that up because that's so true. Like, it's like we use it as kind of like colloquially, but like the entire concept of a guilty pleasure movie is kind of stupid because um, why do you feel guilty for liking a movie? It's sort
mhm,
of like I kind of got like sometimes I'll get comments on my videos saying like um, you're trying to make me feel guilty for liking this movie, and I'm like, if you ever feel guilty for liking a movie,
mhm,
then you need like serious help. Or
yeah,
like if someone or even worse, if someone's critiquing a movie
yeah,
makes you feel guilty about a movie, like you need to
yeah.
stop watching movies for a while and maybe get some touch some grass, get some perspective. That's a little weird.
Well, I understand a little bit that it's like yeah, a lot of video essays kind of presented that way, which is like, again, they're trying to either cancel this movie and be like, you should feel bad for, for liking this thing because it's problematic or whatever. Or they're like, no, this is shitty. But again, you have to accept that, like, it's just this person's opinion. Same thing with you and me whenever we make a video like, hey, this fucking sucks. It's like, we're not gonna like start every video by just saying like this is our opinion, right? If it's coming out of our mouths, it's our damn opinion. Like we don't need to preface it. You can just take it with a grain of salt. Um, so like even me when I like praise something or break something down to why I don't think it's good or it doesn't fit with something else, that's just my interpretation. And I actively try to encourage people to be like, hey, if you disagree with me, leave a comment. I want to read it. I want to have like a discussion. I never want it to be like an attack on someone or like make it personal or anything like that. Because at the end of the day, it's just fucking movies, like you said. Like it's just about having fun, enjoying, being part of a community, talking about these things, and um, yeah, that's always what it comes down to for me.
Same. Again, don't feel guilty for liking a movie. Just like what you like. And if I ever see someone like do another like top 10 list that I saw in college where it was like here are all these films that like or like the like unironically someone saying you've probably never heard of it. Like go fuck yourself. No. Stop, stop, stop.